Yes, people, this is Rami here with the Progression Company. You got the three wise men sitting at the table. To my left, you got Alex, you got Nigel. Yeah, so hopefully the knowledge that you get from this is gonna be the fuel to keep the positivity going, to motivate your progression.
Basically, the topic and how I got onto it was me and Nigel were talking and me and Rami were talking, but we were touching on the topics of when black men are seen as hardworking and creative individuals that we can be. The ruckus and the trials and tribulations we can run into connected to being unmotivated, as well as experiencing situations of laziness, as well as like feelings of not wanting to get out of bed in the morning or trying to get to the job. We were trying to be in a situation of what is the actual root cause. So we were coming to the discussion of, do we most of the time face different situations of laziness and unmotivated situations, or are we actually experiencing like situations of mental health issues, whether it's anxiety or depression? But we've got a bit of info here, and we're going to touch on it shortly, smoothly and swiftly. But yeah, how did you guys feel about the videos that we were checking out though? I remember you checking out
Dr. Barbara Sizemore.
There we go.
Do you know what? There's some things in the world which are provocative, and for me that video was provocative to start with. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, just the title itself was referring to black people still don't get it. I say, yo, what don't I get? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what don't we get? There's a lot of pain, there's a lot of stuff that we're going through. You know, there's a whole system designed to oppress us, you know what I'm saying? So what don't we get? Ooh.
Yeah.
Click the play button, just getting into it. It's one of those painful self-reflection type of conversations where there are some hints of truth. And you know, when you listen to someone else, is it chastising the word I want to use? When rebuking you, someone rebuking you, like correcting you.
Yeah.
It doesn't always feel good, and it doesn't always. Some parts are 100% right, but not everything.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll get into some of those parts. But she was talking really about how black men are fighting almost the wrong fight. You know what I'm saying? We are concerned with getting money, and then we don't keep it. We're concerned with getting money ourselves rather than in tribes or in groups, in families, in cohorts, and then further distributing that within our system. So there's a lot that she touched on to do with mental health and how it affects us economically as black people, you know what I'm saying? And it almost links in with Simon Sinek. Talks about finite games, you know. It talks about playing a game, knowing the rules of the game, you know, or knowing that there are no rules in this game, and then knowing how to operate. So if you don't know about the finite games, we're going to touch on it, but I'm also going to say you guys obviously check it out, and we'll get into more details in twos.
Just touching on that as well, like we don't know that we're playing the game as well, because imagine it's like we're characters in a game where we're being controlled, but we don't realize that we're in a game. So it means that the people that can control the narrative can choose to show us in whatever light they want and misrepresent us, or sometimes positively represent us as a tokenistic gesture. Like the games that are being played, especially on a political level, especially with the media, is to the level that we can't even perceive of, because we take everything at first glance. So it's like it's a lot to do with like asking more questions and going a lot deeper into stuff. With the questions that we have, one of them is like, is mental health spiritual? Like, what are the metaphysics of mental health? Or is it just physical, or is it just mental? Like, what does that mean? Like, these are the kind of questions that we don't ask, that we need to kind of delve into more. So Bobby Hemmett, which is the guy that you recommended me to watch, kind of brought that all in together. You know what I'm saying? Like, he brought the metaphysics, he brought the mental health side, he brought the race side, and it kind of brought it together, especially in the video that you showed me. So yeah, man, I just want to dive into it. You know what I'm saying? I just want to dive into it.
Just to kind of connect things together. You know, when you hear some of our conversations, you can almost feel like there's some political inclinations, or like we're leaning towards the activist side of the, you know, it's just all about let's just do this black power thing. But what we actually need to bring into into a clearer view is the reason we kind of touch on that is it's not that we are being activists, but we are recognizing what's happened in the past, how it's affected us, and then how we can move forward. And I think sometimes we do need to bring ourselves back to the conversation, because we can get emotional and kind of get carried away with political or maybe too much of this side, but our underlining factor is how can we empower black men to understand their position and to be able to capitalize and do something about it. You know, so where you asked that question, which was like laziness and unmotivated versus mental health issues.
Bro, it was racking my brain, and I knew I had to bring it to the Progression Talks podcast, because it's like, even with the videos that are through Nigel as well as Rami, it's a case of, on my downtime, I'm checking out either like Amiri Baraka or like Kwame True, and there's still individuals connected to Bobby Hemmett as well as Dr. Barbara Sizemore. It's just the education and the knowledge. Like, it doesn't even have to be like Nigel was saying earlier, like an activist thing or specifically a black empowerment. It's for the generation, and so we're able to know how we're leading into the future, so we don't repeat the problems as well as the issues that we've seen happen before us. But as we've seen in our own communities and where we grew up in our culture, we always have to tend to our homes first. So linking it to people that have obviously taken the reins so far is necessary, and that brings us on to our first topic, to do with laziness. Like, how do you guys feel when people not necessarily call us or see us as lazy sometimes, but can misjudge our approach to, like, whether it's a creative outlet or a job or a career aspect? Like, how do y'all feel? Me personally, I don't mind being called lazy if people don't see what's happening behind the scenes, but I don't know, like, sometimes I feel like people don't give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, some people can be going through some stuff, but it's seen as laziness. But then with everything mixed in, like, you can do this, like, be present on socials and go out at night, but you can't do this. Like, how do y'all feel about the misconception?
So I've got like a historical context to this. So if you look at America, I think it was in the early 30s, 1930s or something like that. You look at one of the biggest films that made it out, and one of the biggest films in the world at that time. I think it was like the first major motion picture or something like that. It was called Birth of a Nation, which is one of the most racist films you can ever see. You know what I'm saying? And it shows black people doing the most stupid shit, portrayed in the most dumbest ways, being criminals and rapists and stuff like that. So, and also very lazy as well. I don't know if I mentioned that. So, this is after a time when the black people in America just gained their freedom after slavery. So how can you call someone lazy after they created a whole empire through working tirelessly day and night, and then saying that they're lazy after they start working for free? Like, it don't make sense. So you gotta look at where the pointing the figure at comes from. Like, we wouldn't call ourselves lazy. Maybe some of us do, but that kind of concept kind of comes from other people calling us lazy. So if we think that we're lazy because someone else is calling us lazy, we're more than likely going to end up being lazy, because that's just what we're being called all the time. So it's like understanding where it comes from, because it comes from racist people trying to control obviously young black men, young black girls, and trying to put this image onto us, but we ain't got to take it. Like, we don't have to say we're lazy because this person says it, or this media outlet thinks that they show us in this way, we're lazy because of it. Like, nah, it don't make sense, you get me? Just because people watch Top Boy, it don't mean black guys are aggressive. You get me? We can watch it, we can enjoy it, but sometimes we gotta leave it at that. Doesn't make us aggressive, or doesn't make us any type of way. It's just up to us whether we kind of make it truth or not, you know what I'm saying?
And just going on that, I mean, with things like Top Boy, just to kind of put a little bit of like defense on them in this matter, you know, it's something that portrays somebody's perspective, you know, in our position as well. You know, it shows that perspective. So, you know, just because you see something doesn't mean you have to replicate it, which is definitely big. And I think social media culture helps to make us look a certain way. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna say something to that though, because I feel like with shows like Top Boy, it's a double-edged sword, because this is stuff that happens in real life, but the way the media show it is like cool. They choose to show that kind of side of us instead of the other side where it's seen as more positive. Even though it's still real, and it's the truth, and it's what happens. It's just that they choose to show us and they choose to amplify it. So that we can see that, and what we see, we're gonna end up being more of. You know what I'm saying? So I agree with you though. I agree with you.
And you know what? I feel like when we look at social media and we see, and you start looking, I guess, take a canvas of the majority of black men that you'll see, they would be seen as lazy because of all the other reasons why wearing a tracksuit and why doing this is classed as lazy. I do though feel like there's an element that we're not discussing, and sometimes I like to say this is the business of, for example, black people and other races, you know, and then this is an issue of, okay, first of all, let's deal with us mans before we go out and start talking to people. So let's deal with it here. And I feel like there are, you know, sometimes you get women calling black men lazy, and then you have that issue of baby moms and stuff like that. So there are very difficult stigmas that we need to escape from ourselves, because we are pushing the trolley. We were given the trolley, you know, we were taught how to use the trolley, but now we're pushing the trolley ourselves. You know, and it needs to get to a point where, and I think we'll touch on this as we go on, self-education, you know, becomes the thing that prevails, because you know where you've come from, and you're like, okay, this is what we've experienced, and you know where you want to go, and you're like, okay, this is what I now need to experience, and you develop the habits and the behaviors that allow you to get there. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we almost push ourselves down, and it's through a lack of understanding, but I kind of don't want to say that. I think it's to do with a lack of responsibility sometimes,
Of course,
you know, and sometimes I can find myself, like, my mental health, you know, it does the most. I don't want to go to work, you know, I do want to be in bed for the whole week, and then there are times where I feel a similar way, but I don't use the same amount of strength to fight it, because I know that if such happens, now I end up at home and I'm relaxed and I don't have to work hard, do this. That can become, you know, a series of behaviors. So black men, there can be, you know, some people who develop laziness, and when I say laziness, I don't mean in the general context of laziness. I mean in the sense that, you know, for me, who knows my capacity, it is lazy for me, for example, if I'm benching whatever 120k, and now I know I could do 150. Hey, these are numbers. Okay? Leave me alone. You know, just throwing numbers. Let's say I know I can do 50. 130 would be lazy for me. However, for someone who can do 70, you then can't say I'm lazy, but you can, because I know I'm lazy from my perspective. So I think there's an element of us black men being able to say, my bro, that's not good enough. And then you taking that responsibility, and if I call you lazy, you don't then think about all the past hurt, or the times that, you know, you went to work, you went to shift. It's okay, in my current place, in my current capacity, my laziness is here, and here. And it's something a writer called Steve R. Covey talks about, and he talks about, like, your paradigm, what you see, you know, that creates your ultimate reality. And once you see your paradigm correctly and you can accurately depict where you are, you stand the best chance of being able to progress forward. That's me on that part. I didn't want to hit that too strong.
Literally, just to reiterate off what Nigel said, in terms of the self-acceptance, to know the responsibility is with you, like in terms of pushing the trolley, like with the stuff we're into, like individually, like we're interested in it from the get-go, like it was never forced. So when we see each other doing our thing, we'll encourage one another because we know the heights that they can reach and then excel. But with a lot of people, like with the background knowledge they have on certain things, sometimes they can get discouraged, and sometimes the amount of effort you're putting into one task might seem like not enough, because you know you can reach more, but in time it does develop and it increases the amount you can put out. But I feel like it's the self-education you were touching on as well, like the amount of information that's out there. There's like a plethora of stuff, like not even in the UK, like, or across the world, that you can research and find out heritage on, to impact what you're doing, so you can have a bigger impact on the people around you with what you're doing. Because the amount of info I get from Nigel as well as Rami, apart from the info I find myself, is crazy. So it's there, but I think understanding the past will help us want more responsibility. Because when we dive into the past and see what people's done before us, we're like, we're trying to do this, or we're trying to push this further, so they notice us and acknowledge like the ones before us and the ones after us. Because we gotta lay the map somehow. We gotta do something, because the ones after us have to follow some kind of plan or some kind of blueprint. You feel me?
100%. I feel like going back to the point I was gonna make, like the knowledge that you have plus self-education is so important, because it's only when I started like reading more books and going to university, I realized like the mental slavery exists in the knowledge that you have in it. Like if someone tells you a certain type of thing, or you only know certain things about yourself, you're only within that paradigm. That the knowledge that you have keeps you within that paradigm that you have in it.
All you know is all you know.
Exactly, like what you can't perceive, you can't achieve what you can't perceive. If you can't even see something, that's what I'm saying. Like representation is so important. If you can't even see something, you won't even have it within you to go and achieve that or go create, make it your reality. So it goes back to educating yourself and like being open-minded enough to like seek out new paradigms for yourself and just new realities. Because Bobby Hemmett talks about how closed-minded we are as people. Talking about black people and everyone in general, to be fair with this as well. Like right now, everyone's in a mental slavery game. It's not so much as a race thing right now because
a little constraint just across the border.
It's all across the border. It's more classism was there before racism.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if you look at that, like everyone's in it on the same boat. The situation, you can say black people get it a different type of way now.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's more oppression and the racism still exists on a big level.
Yeah.
That's what makes the world the way it works. But also on a different level, the mental slavery is the knowledge. Like we all go to the same school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the knowledge that we learn keeps us constricted. Like we learn it in
what the next person to us knows unless we reach out.
Exactly.
You know
it's in a very Eurocentric type view in it where it doesn't want us to become powerful, empowered, or it doesn't want us to leave a legacy of the shit that we're talking about, you get me? So it's going to keep us very small. So if we can open up ourselves a little bit more and read the books that we may necessarily look at or do certain things or do certain activities that don't restrict us, that'll open up our realities as well. And that's how we end up changing ourselves, you get me?
Yeah. And I think we opened up with Dr. Barbara Sizemore just to close on this on this question with the same ideals she has. She was just saying, you know, in terms of how we influence, she also says the same about distributing wealth, but in terms of how we influence, you know, you can influence more people as a collective. We can hit a much harder and a much bigger impact as a collective, you know, so that education that we're talking about is important. The next part